The Garage Key, Chapter 1, The Weight of Grief. Santa Fe, New Mexico, with its adobe architecture and endless blue skies, had always been a haven for Elizabeth Vance. At 65, she had built a life of quiet contentment with her husband, Robert, a life rooted in 40 years of what she believed to be a perfect marriage. Robert, or Bob as everyone knew him, was her rock, her confidant, her world. He was the quintessential loving husband, a devoted father to their only son, Matthew. His sudden passing, a heart attack, left Liz utterly adrift, a widow in a sea of grief so profound it felt like a physical weight pressing down on her chest. The funeral was a blur of sympathetic faces, hushed condolences, and the suffocating scent of lilies. Liz moved through it all as if in a dream, her mind numb, her heart a raw wound. In the days that followed, the painful task of sorting through Robert's belongings fell to her. Each item, a shirt, a worn leather wallet, a beloved old watch, was a tangible reminder of the man she had lost, a man she had loved fiercely and completely. One afternoon, sifting through the contents of his bedside table, a drawer Robert had always kept strangely private, Liz found it. Tucked beneath a stack of old utility bills and a faded photograph of their wedding day was a small, antique-looking key. It wasn't a house key, nor a car key. It was an odd shape, an older design, with a small, rectangular tag attached to its ring. On the tag, etched in what looked like faded permanent marker, were a series of enigmatic letters and numbers: G12, CRFD, STK. Liz frowned. A key? She had no idea what it belonged to. It certainly didn't fit any lock in their Santa Fe home, a home they had shared for over 30 years. She showed it to Matthew when he next visited, hoping he might recognize it. Matt, a pragmatic man in his late 30s, examined the key, turning it over in his hand. "Never seen it, Mom," he admitted, shrugging. "Dad probably picked it up at some antique shop. Or it's for some old storage unit he had way back when. Don't worry about it." But Liz couldn't dismiss it. The key felt heavy in her palm, weighted with an unspoken mystery. It was an anomaly in Robert's meticulously ordered life, a strange, dissonant note in the otherwise perfect symphony of their marriage. The grief that had consumed her slowly began to mix with a subtle, chilling unease. She had believed she knew everything about Robert Vance. Everything. But this key, it whispered of secrets. Chapter 2, A Crinkled Receipt and a Gnawing Doubt. The funeral and the initial rush of condolences eventually subsided, leaving Liz with the daunting task of navigating Robert's financial affairs. It was a chore she dreaded, a stark reminder of his absence. Robert had always handled their finances meticulously and competently. He was a successful architect, and their life had always been comfortable, secure. As she delved into his paperwork, Liz began to notice small, unsettling discrepancies. A recurring monthly expense from a bank account she didn't recognize. One listed only with an obscure routing number. Significant cash withdrawals that didn't align with any of their household expenses. A property tax bill for a small parcel of land in a remote part of Colorado, a parcel she had never known about, never discussed. Each anomaly was a tiny pinprick, gradually deflating the balloon of her cherished memories. Robert, who had always been so open, so transparent about their shared life, seemed to have conducted a parallel financial existence she knew nothing about. Her gnawing doubt grew sharper, more insistent. She remembered Robert's business trips. He had traveled frequently, often for a few days at a time, always returning with a gift, a knowing smile, and a plausible, if sometimes vague, explanation for his absence. He always said he was networking, meeting clients, scouting new projects. He often mentioned specific towns in Colorado: Denver, Colorado Springs, a new development near Grand Junction, but never in detail, always just enough information to satisfy her curiosity without inviting questions. Now those memories were tainted. The key, the financial anomalies, the Colorado trips, they coalesced into a disturbing pattern. It was as if she were piecing together a mosaic, and each new tile revealed a picture she couldn't recognize. Her perfect marriage, her perfect husband, began to feel like a carefully constructed illusion. Driven by a desperation she couldn't ignore, Liz decided to investigate the key. G12, CRFD, STK. She had to know what it meant. She spent hours online, typing the letters into search engines, trying various combinations. Finally, after countless dead ends, a small, independent search engine specializing in public records yielded a glimmer of hope. STK could be a local storage company. CRFD was a less common abbreviation, but it popped up in connection with a tiny, almost forgotten town in Colorado, Crawford. And G12? It pointed to a specific unit number. Liz's heart hammered. Crawford, Colorado. One of the remote towns Robert had occasionally mentioned. A quiet dread settled in her stomach. What if the key, the unknown bank account, the land parcel, all pointed to something far more sinister than a simple secret? What if Robert had been living a double life? The thought was terrifying, almost unfathomable. But the alternative, that her own mind was betraying her, fabricating suspicions in her grief, was even worse. She had to know, for her sanity, for her peace, and for the ghost of the perfect man she thought she knew. Chapter 3. The Door to Another Life. Liz confided in Matt, who, though still struggling with his own grief, sensed the urgency in his mother's voice. The financial discrepancies disturbed him too. "Mom, if Dad was hiding something, we need to find out, for your sake, for our family's sake." He arranged for a private investigator, Detective Rios, a quiet, observant man with a no-nonsense demeanor. Rios quickly confirmed Liz's suspicions about the Colorado property. It was indeed registered to Robert, but with an odd legal distinction, making it almost untraceable. He also corroborated the regular, unexplained transfers to a local Colorado bank. Armed with Rios's findings and the newfound lead on STK storage in Crawford, Liz decided to go to Colorado. Matt, worried for her, insisted on accompanying her. The drive from Santa Fe to Crawford was long, winding through breathtaking mountain passes that seemed to mock the turmoil in Liz's heart. The beauty of the landscape felt like a cruel joke, a stark contrast to the ugliness she feared she was about to uncover. Crawford was a small, isolated town, nestled deep in the mountains, a place of quiet beauty and profound solitude. It was the kind of place where secrets could easily be kept. They found STK storage on the outskirts of town, a nondescript facility with rows of anonymous garage units. Liz's hands trembled as she approached Unit G12. The lock was old, weathered, but the key fit perfectly. With a profound sense of dread, she turned the key. The heavy metal door grated open, revealing not a dusty storage unit filled with old furniture and forgotten boxes, but A home. Her breath hitched. Inside was a fully furnished, meticulously maintained living space. A small, cozy sitting area with a comfortable armchair and a worn coffee table. A neatly made bed in the corner. A small kitchenette with a few dishes drying on a rack. There were personal touches everywhere. A framed photograph on a small desk. A stack of books on a shelf. A pair of worn slippers by the armchair. It was clearly lived in, and it was clearly Robert's. On the small desk, Liz saw it. A framed photograph. It showed Robert, younger, smiling, his arm around a beautiful woman with warm, kind eyes and bright red hair. And between them, a little girl, no older than 8 or 9, with Robert's eyes and the woman's fiery hair. A child, his child. Liz felt the world tilt on its axis. Her knees buckled. This wasn't a storage unit. This was a hidden life. A secret family. On the coffee table, a stack of letters and drawings. Liz picked one up. A child's scrawl. A crayon drawing of a stick figure holding hands with a larger stick figure. To Daddy, I love you. Emily. Another letter, addressed in a flowing, elegant hand. My dearest Bob, I miss you so much. Emily asks about you every day. We can't wait for you to come home. Signed, Sarah, your loving wife. Wife. The word echoed in Liz's mind, a hammer blow to her already shattered heart. Robert Vance, her husband of 40 years, had been living a double life. He had another wife, another daughter. The perfect man, the perfect husband, was a monster of deception. Matt, who had followed her in, stood frozen, his face ashen. His own world crumbling around him. The air in the garage unit, once just dusty and still, now felt suffocating, thick with the weight of unspeakable betrayal. Chapter 4. The Diary of a Deceiver. The shock was a physical pain, sharp and visceral. Liz stumbled back, her vision blurring. 40 years. 40 years of shared memories, of unwavering trust, of profound love. All of it now, a hollow lie. Matt, though reeling, found his voice. Mom, we need to get out of here. We need to figure this out. But Liz couldn't move. Her eyes scanned the room, each object a fresh stab of pain. A tie draped over a chair, identical to ones Robert wore. A worn fishing hat, his favorite. A small, framed photograph of a younger Robert, laughing freely. A look she rarely saw on his face in their Santa Fe home. On the small bedside table, a worn leather-bound book. A diary. Robert's diary. Liz picked it up, her hands trembling. The first entries were from years ago. Shortly after their 20th wedding anniversary, Robert described meeting Sarah on a business trip to Denver. Sarah, a vibrant, artistic woman who worked at a local gallery. He spoke of an instant, undeniable connection, a passion he thought he had lost. July 15th, 2004. I met her today. Sarah. She's everything Liz isn't. Free, passionate. She sees me, truly sees me. I know this is wrong, horribly wrong, but I can't stop. I feel alive again, truly alive. This is madness. This is exhilarating. The diary chronicled his descent into the double life, the elaborate lies, the calculated disappearances, the constant fear of exposure. He described his love for Sarah, a love that seemed to burn with a desperate intensity. And then, the birth of Emily, his second daughter. March 10th, 2016. Emily, she's perfect. My little girl. I held her today, and a part of my heart I didn't know existed, just fractured. How can I love two families? How can I live this lie? The guilt is crushing, but so is the joy. I'm torn apart. I can't choose. I won't choose. I will keep them both safe, both lives. No one will ever know. He wrote of the crushing financial burden, the increasing stress of maintaining two households, two lives, two identities. He had started diverting funds, taking out secret loans, spiraling deeper into a web of deceit. He'd stolen from Liz, from his own company, from both families. Desperate to keep the illusion intact. December 20th, 2023. I'm exhausted. The lies are suffocating me. I can feel my heart protesting. This double life is killing me, slowly. I'm a coward. I should have chosen. I should have confessed. But I can't bear to hurt either of them, to shatter their worlds. I just keep hoping it will all work out, or that I'll simply disappear. The last entry, written just a week before his death, was chillingly prescient. June 1st, 2024. The pain in my chest is getting worse. I think this is it. I'm leaving so many loose ends, so many lies. Liz, Sarah, Emily, Matt, forgive me. I tried to do what was right, to make everyone happy. But I was wrong. So terribly wrong. The key, it's the only way, for them to know, for them to find each other. Maybe in death, the truth will finally set us all free. Liz dropped the diary, her mind reeling. Robert hadn't just been a deceiver. He had been a man tormented, caught in a trap of his own making. He had left the key as a morbid breadcrumb, a final desperate plea for the truth to emerge after his death. He had orchestrated his own post-mortem exposure. Matt, having read over her shoulder, was equally devastated. He had another family mom, a whole other life. How could he do this to us? His voice was thick with betrayal, his face pale with shock. The weight of the betrayal was immense. The man she had loved, the man she had buried, was not the man she thought he was. He was a stranger, a ghost from a life she never knew he lived. And now she had to find that other family, the family Robert had kept hidden, the family who, like her, were about to have their world shattered. Chapter 5: The Collision of Worlds. Returning to Santa Fe, Liz felt like an alien in her own home. Every corner, every photograph of Robert now felt tainted by the revelation. The perfect memories were warped, twisted into grotesque caricatures of betrayal. She and Matt spent days in a state of stunned disbelief. The diary and the evidence from the garage unit serving as a constant, brutal reminder. Detective Rios, though used to uncovering secrets, was visibly disturbed by the extent of Robert's deception. A complete, separate life, he murmured, shaking his head. It's rare to see something so meticulously maintained for so long. With the information from the diary and the garage, locating Sarah Morgan and Emily was tragically easy. Robert had kept a small, separate address book, with Sarah's contact details and Emily's school reports tucked away in the garage. The decision of how to approach them was agonizing. Liz's lawyer, a kind but firm woman named Mrs. Davies, advised caution. This will be devastating for them too, Liz. They are victims, just like you. And Emily, she's an innocent child. Liz decided to write a letter first, a gentle introduction to the unthinkable truth. She enclosed a copy of Robert's last diary entry. hoping it might offer some context, some explanation for the shattering revelation. The letter was sent, and the waiting began, a torment of anticipation and dread. The call came 2 days later. A woman's voice, raw with disbelief and barely contained rage. "Is this Elizabeth Vance? Who are you? What is this letter? What have you done?" It was Sarah Morgan. Liz, her voice trembling, explained. Slowly, painfully, she recounted finding the key, the garage, the diary, the letters, the photographs. Sarah's initial anger slowly gave way to a chilling silence, then a broken sob. "No," she whispered. "No, Bob, he wouldn't. He loved us. He was always here for us." Liz explained that Robert was dead. This, too, was a fresh wound for Sarah, who hadn't known of his passing. The conversation lasted for hours, a surreal exchange of half-truths and shattering revelations. Sarah had believed Robert was an oil executive, constantly traveling for work. He sent money, he called. He visited regularly. He was the perfect, if absent, father and husband. She had no idea he had another family. Her own life, her own perfect love story, was as much a lie as Liz's. They agreed to meet, for the sake of the children, for the sake of untangling the horrifying mess Robert had left behind. The meeting took place in a neutral location, a small cafe in a town halfway between Santa Fe and Crawford. Liz brought Matt, Sarah brought Emily, a solemn-faced girl who clutched her mother's hand, clearly sensing the profound tension. The initial encounter was fraught with pain. 2 women, 2 families, connected by a man who had betrayed them both. Sarah's eyes, once warm in the photograph, were now filled with a raw, fierce anger. "How could you not know?" she accused Liz, her voice shaking. 40 years! How could he keep this from you?" "How could you not know?" Liz countered, her own voice sharp with betrayal. "He told me he was on business trips. He was your husband." Matt and Emily, caught in the crossfire of their mother's pain, looked on, their young faces mirroring the confusion and hurt. It was a chaotic, agonizing collision of worlds. But slowly, amidst the accusations and tears, a fragile understanding began to emerge. They were both victims. Both had been manipulated, lied to, and ultimately left with shattered lives. They were both left with financial ruin, as Robert, in his desperate attempt to maintain his 2 lives, had pilfered from both families, leaving a trail of debt and hidden accounts. The anger shifted, slowly, from each other to the man who had caused it all. Robert Vance, the perfect husband, the loving father, was now revealed as a master deceiver, a man whose desperate attempt to have it all had ultimately destroyed everything. And now they had to pick up the pieces, together. Chapter 6: Rebuilding from the Ashes. The immediate aftermath of the revelation was a storm of legal complexities. Robert's financial affairs were a tangled web of deceit. His will, which left everything to Liz, was now complicated by Sarah's claim as his wife and Emily as his legitimate child. Liz's lawyer, Mrs. Davies, initiated what she called a post-mortem divorce proceeding, a legal maneuver to clarify Robert's marital status and the distribution of his estate. It was a painful, public unraveling of Robert's double life. News of the scandal, though confined to the local communities, spread like wildfire. Liz and Sarah, initially hostile, found themselves drawn together by a shared sense of betrayal and the overwhelming need to protect their children, especially Emily, who was now grappling with the fact that her father had lived a monumental lie. They met regularly, not just with lawyers, but for quiet conversations, navigating the emotional wreckage. Sarah, a fiercely independent woman, spoke of her own life, her career as an artist, her dreams. She revealed that Robert had often seemed distant, preoccupied, but she had always attributed it to the demands of his important job. She had loved him deeply and truly, and the betrayal was as profound for her as it was for Liz. Emily, a perceptive and sensitive child, struggled the most. She had idolized her father. The revelation of his deception was a cruel blow. Liz, despite her own pain, felt a deep maternal instinct towards Emily. She saw Robert's eyes in the girl, and a heartbreaking innocence that had been brutally shattered. Liz and Sarah, united by their common enemy, Robert's deceit, began to collaborate. They worked with Detective Rios to uncover the full extent of Robert's financial improprieties. They found hidden bank accounts, forged documents, and a shocking amount of debt. Robert had stolen from both families, leaving them both in a precarious financial situation. The process was arduous, fraught with emotional outbursts and legal complexities, but through it all, a strange, unexpected bond began to form between Liz and Sarah. They weren't friends, not yet, perhaps never in the traditional sense, but they were allies. They shared a history, a wound, and a complicated future. They were the survivors of Robert Vance's lies. Liz found a strange strength she never knew she possessed. The perfect wife image she had lived under for so long had been shattered, but in its place, a more resilient, authentic woman emerged. She stopped trying to live up to an ideal, allowing herself to feel the full spectrum of her emotions: anger, sadness, confusion, and ultimately a growing sense of liberation. She decided to sell their large Santa Fe home, a symbol of a life that was built on a lie. She wanted a fresh start, a new chapter, free from the ghosts of Robert's deception. Chapter 7, An Unexpected Family. The legal battles stretched on for months, messy and emotionally draining. Robert's estate was largely dissolved to cover his extensive debts, leaving both families with little material inheritance. But they gained something far more valuable: a painful yet honest understanding of the man who had shaped their lives, and an unexpected, complex connection to each other: Liz, Matt, Sarah, and Emily. They were now a fractured, unconventional family, bound by a shared legacy of deception, but also by a burgeoning sense of solidarity. Matt found a quiet, paternal connection with Emily, offering her support and understanding as she navigated her father's betrayal. Emily, initially withdrawn, slowly began to open up, finding solace in the shared experience. Liz decided to move into a smaller, more manageable home in Santa Fe, a space that felt truly her own, unburdened by the weight of a deceptive past. She dedicated herself to her community work, to her friendships, and to rebuilding her life on a foundation of truth and authenticity. Sarah, fiercely independent, continued her art career, finding a new depth and raw honesty in her paintings. She began to use her experience as a source of strength, transforming her pain into powerful art. She and Emily remained in Crawford, but the bond with Liz and Matt grew stronger. They celebrated holidays together, shared milestones, and offered each other unwavering support. The garage key, once a symbol of betrayal and destruction, slowly transformed into a symbol of unintended truth and unexpected connection. It had opened a door not just to another life, but to a new understanding of love, forgiveness, and the complexities of human nature. Robert, in his desperate attempt to keep his secrets, had inadvertently created a new, unconventional family, united by the very lies that tore their worlds apart. Liz never fully forgave Robert. The pain of his betrayal was too deep, too profound, but she found a profound peace in understanding. She understood the depth of his brokenness, the desperation that must have driven him. She realized that his perfect life was a facade, a gilded cage he had built for himself, and that his death had, in a twisted way, finally set them all free. The man she had married, the man she had loved, was gone. But in his place, a new reality emerged, one filled with unexpected resilience, profound connection, and a future built on honesty, not illusion. Liz, the perfect wife, had found her true self, a stronger, more compassionate woman, forged in the crucible of betrayal, ready to embrace the complex, imperfect beauty of a life finally lived without pretense.